Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. We are learning about the Shema, the quintessential prayer of our faith. This is the most important prayer of our faith. One of our members is 96 years old, 96 and 3/4 years old. I went to visit him the other day in hospice, and we laid tefillin, and he said the Shema, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. He said it with so much passion, so much devotion. He said it so slowly and so beautifully. Couple hours. The next morning, he passed away. So,
in the Rabbi, what's the book? Positivity Bias. The Rabbi said the most important prayer to him was the Modani.
In the book Positivity Bias, the Rebbe said the most important prayer to him is Modeh Ani. Okay, that's fine. That's very nice. But I'm saying the most famous and most well-known and most fundamental prayer is certainly nobody would debate is the Shema Yisrael. Modeh Ani is beautiful. It's the first prayer you say in the morning. It's the one that sets the tone for the whole day. Fair enough. But you can't. It doesn't disqualify the fact that the Shema, discount the greatness of the Shema. Let's dive deeper into this as we analyze the Talmud. We're on page 202 in the Ein Yaakov, which is the Talmud's story edition, the editions of the story collection of stories of the Talmud from Tractate Brachos in the first Art Scroll volume of the Ein Yaakov on page 202. And now we begin as the Gemara analyzes the three paragraphs of the Shema. Remember, the three paragraphs, the first two paragraphs are very, very similar. We explained so far that the first paragraph of the Shema sets the stage, accepting the yoke of heaven. The first paragraph of the Shema is the one that accepts the yoke of heaven that says, God, I am yours. I'm committed. I believe in you. The second paragraph is the one that gets into the details and it tells us what it is that we're committing to. The third paragraph is a little random because it picks one mitzvah and it says this mitzvah is the one that is the one we have to remember every day, twice a day, the mitzvah of tzitzis. And this is how the Talmud begins today. Why did they include the passage of tzitzis in the Shema? I mean, tzitzis is the mitzvah of the four-cornered garment. So if you're wearing a garment with four corners, then you have to attach tassels to the corners of that garment. The tassels have 5 knots and 8 strings on each corner. Why is this mitzvah different to all other mitzvahs? Rabbi Yehuda ben Chaviva said, because it contains the following 5 things in this paragraph. Number 1, the commandment of tzitzis. Number 2, the Exodus from Egypt. Now, the Exodus from Egypt is a big one because, remember, there's a biblical commandment to remember the Exodus from Egypt every single day. You know, in the morning service, right after the Aleinu Shabbat in the morning service, there's something called the 6 remembrances, the 6 things you're supposed to remember every single day. And one of them is to remember every single day your Exodus from Egypt. So now this makes sense. Okay, if this is something you're supposed to be remembering every single day, then it makes sense that they put this into the Shema to remind us that we should verbalize their memory of the Exodus from Egypt. That's fulfilling the mitzvah. The third of 5 elements to this third paragraph of the Shema, it mentions the yoke of mitzvahs in general. Then number 4, it's not to accept the opinions of the deniers of the Jewish faith, which basically means to stay strong in the face of mockery, in the face of naysayers, in the face of those who try to scoff, the scoffers, right? By the way, it's interesting that at the very beginning of the Code of Jewish Law, we're told to be bold as a leopard. Why bold as a leopard? To not be intimidated by those who try to emotionally manipulate us into downplaying our faith. You believe in that stuff? What did the rabbi do to you? You know, those are the scoffers that they're gaslighting effectively. They're causing you to doubt your own sanity, right? They're undermining your faith. They're making fun. Who destroyed the true, and really, where's that coming from? It's coming from their own insecurity, by the way. That's what it's coming from. It's because they know that their faith is pathetic or in a state of absolute chaos, and therefore they get intimidated by seeing the strength of your faith. So if they can make you weaken your faith, then they'll feel better about their own faith. Nothing helps a bad mood like spreading it. So nothing helps negativity like making sure that somebody else is also negative. Is what? Misery likes company. Yes, right. So these are the people who distort the true meaning of Torah in order to preach falsehood and idolatry. And finally, the fifth of the five elements of the third paragraph of the Shema is the requirement to avoid sinful, immoral thoughts and the requirement to avoid idolatrous thoughts. Did you even know that this was a thing, folks? Did you even know that thinking the wrong thoughts is not a good idea? I mean, seriously, what did I do wrong, Rabbi? I didn't hurt anybody. I mean, this is very, very intense right now because look at what just happened. I mean, how does this paragraph, the third paragraph of the Shema, affect your relationship with the internet right now? How does this third paragraph of the Shema affect your relationship with your cell phone? Just think about this. Cell phones have transformed our lives. I tell people that ask me about what age they should give their kids a cell phone, a smartphone. Good answer, Marty. 20, he says, right? So, Mark, it's not only Jews who weaken your faith, but it's even, of course, the non-Jews. Anybody who weakens your faith, you should not be intimidated by. Good morning, Terry from Atlanta, and Leah from New York, and Amy from Palm Beach and Corey too, and Peter. I'm not sure where you're from. Welcome. So, I tell people who ask me about what age they should give the kids a smartphone. I say, at the age that you're willing to no longer be the center of your children's lives.
20 is too young.
20 is too young. Yeah, look, it's very, very hard. I think we have a test today that no other previous generation ever had, obviously, which is, but all my friends have it. And now the teachers are assigning homework at 10 p.m. on the cell phone, right? And I'm not going to know the assignment is. And I'm like, that's actually a good thing. I don't want you getting assignments at 10 p.m. Better. So it's very hard. It's very, very hard to keep your kids away from smartphones. But, this is the reality we've got to struggle with as parents, that you've got to figure out that the moment they get that smartphone, they're going to be trying to get away from you so they can be with their phone and do whatever they need to do with their phone. So now, how does that get affected by what we just learned about the five elements of the third paragraph of the Shema? For starters, it's what you see, right? We said, did we mention seeing? No, we didn't mention seeing. Oh, that was one of the five things. Sorry, but it was it's an ancillary. Let me read you the third paragraph of the Shema. So we got it nice and clear here. Let me read it to you here. Bear with me a moment, folks. Here it is. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and tell them." So far, so good, right? We're doing well. Speak to the children of Israel and tell them. Okay, here goes. To make for themselves fringes in the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and to attach a thread of blue on the fringe of each corner. Let's just talk about this for a moment. What's the thread of blue? I don't have a thread of blue. What's the thread of blue? It's called techelet. Techelet is a color, and it's a color that apparently it does exist. We just don't know what it is. Supposedly, there's a snail or a mollusk or something that comes out of the ocean once every 70 years, and its blood is blue, and it's a dye, and you use that dye to make the blueness, the blue color of the string of the tzitzis. Now, if you go to Israel, you'll see a lot of people that wear this blue string because they claim they know what it is. If I'm not mistaken, I went to that amazing aquarium here in South Florida, Miami. It's called the Frost Museum of Science. Amazing aquarium. And there they have, my son showed me, there's like a certain mollusk. I forget what it's called. He would know. It's a certain kind of sea creature that blood is blue. And apparently it only makes an appearance out of the ocean every couple of decades. Something like that. So maybe that's what it is. Anyways, so the reason people like myself don't wear it, we only have a white tzitzis, is because we don't think we know what it is. And if you don't know what it is, here you see my tzitzis, this is it, but it's all white, see? So if you don't know what it is, then, when in doubt, go with that. So they shall be to you as tzitzis, and you shall look upon them. This is it. And you shall look upon them and remember. It's very important. You are deeply, profoundly influenced. I think we spoke about this in the last class, that you're deeply, profoundly influenced by what you see. Visuals, right? And remember, when you see the tzitzis, you'll remember all the commandments of the Lord and fulfill them. Why will that be? Why will you see the tzitzis and remember all the commandments of the Lord? Because the word tzitzis has the numerical value of 600 in Hebrew, plus 8 strings and 5 knots is 613. So when you see the tzitzis, you'll remember the 613 obligations and responsibilities. And you will not follow after your heart and after your eyes, by which you go astray. So that, in other words, you'll be looking at the right things instead of the wrong things. That's what it's saying so far. So that you may remember and fulfill all my commandments. And be holy to your God. So far we mentioned the commandment of tzitzis. and the yoke of mitzvahs. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. I, the Lord, am your God. True, MS. So let's cover. We did the commandment of tzitzis, the exodus from Egypt, the yoke of the mitzvahs we did. What about not to accept the opinions of the deniers of the Jewish faith? Did that come up here somewhere? Did I miss it? I guess what when it says, and you shall not, you'll not follow after your heart and after your eyes by which you go astray. Again, your eyes lead you astray. So maybe that's a reference to those that are trying to mislead you away from faith. Perhaps that's what it means. I'm sure the Talmud will explain this. And then it says, again, sinful and immoral thoughts was the final point, which is obviously right. You want to make sure the visuals keep you on track. So if you just talk about this in terms of the relationship with our cell phone. So here you are, you think you're minding your own business, you're not hurting anybody. What sin could I possibly be doing? Well, if you go to the wrong website, first of all, your visual is actually going to, if you look at the things you should not be looking at, then what happens is that it actually engraves an imprint upon your soul. It's very subtle, it's very sensitive. It's kind of like brain surgery, Brain surgery is, you got to be much more careful with your brain surgeon than you are with your mechanic, right? Brain surgeons got zero margin of error. Mechanic, within five centimeters is okay, right? Doesn't really matter. But 5 centimeters error margin in the brain is obviously a problem. When it comes to the eyes are the windows of the soul. They're the most sensitive elements of a person. In fact, the Rebbe says that you should be very careful not to show little children, toddlers, pictures of non-kosher animals. Have you ever heard of this?
No. Don't have a pig in your house.
Yes, you shouldn't have a pig in your house, but you shouldn't even show them picture books. You shouldn't even show them picture books, Steve, of pigs or of donkeys or of non-kosher animals. Why? Because the visual of a non-kosher animal is already going to impress their soul at the very impressionable age of which they're at.
They see a cowboy movie on horses. You can't show them pictures.
Well, I want to tell you, you're talking about a cowboy movie. I'll tell you, I didn't even have a TV in my house for that reason. And some people look at me like I'm positively primitive. But absolutely, I refuse to allow a television into my home, which will bring into my house the jorah. You know what jorah is? It's a Hebrew slang, which means the trash of society. It's like the lowest common denominator of society. If it bleeds, it reads. I mean, why would you want to bring that into your house? If you have a TV. Ever ridden a camel? I can't say that I have actually ridden a camel, but I might have thought about riding a camel.
I've ridden a camel. Do your kids go to the zoo?
Yes, we go to the zoo.
And you don't look at, so you should look at any of those animals. You're all
So you're
trained.
going to see non-kosher
Look,
animals.
look, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. I'm being all right. Fine. I'm being criticized. Fair enough. Fair enough. You got a good point. No, you're right. Look. No. You're right. You're absolutely right. The thing is like this. The question is, you can't avoid seeing non-kosher things. I mean,
Of course.
right. But you don't have to put it in their faces before bedtime. Take them to the zoo. Okay, you show them the wonders of Hashem's creation. Lovely. Lovely. Ask my kids about what they saw in the zoo the other day. That's what the tiger says. So, the babies. So that's good. But once in a while, okay, you can't shield them from that. But you don't have to make it up in there. You don't have to put a picture of a pig above the baby's bed. You don't have to have those little trinkets above his bed, which is a camel and a pig and a donkey. You could get a cow and a shepseleh sheep, right? And a little chicken, right? This always makes it very interesting when you give presents to the rabbi for babies' births. We have to screen all the presents. Right? Get a gift card instead. All right.
Explain the story about Judah and his daughter-in-law.
Judah and his daughter-in-law. Ooh. How do I explain the story? That's random.
If he was wearing tzitzis, he would not have done that.
If he was wearing tzitzis, he would not have done what?
What did he do?
Send to the daughter-in-law?
Why don't you tell us?
Where does this come in? I'm like a little lost on it.
Maybe I had the wrong person who had
Tzitzis.
a relationship with his daughter-in-law.
First of all, the Torah wasn't given yet. So he didn't have an obligation to do mitzvah, to do tzitzis.
He knew.
I don't know what he knew. I don't know. I didn't get the memo. I'm not sure what he knew.
Jacob knew the whole time.
I don't know. Look, it's all random, Steve. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I want to focus on idolatrous thoughts. I'm still talking about the visuals right now. But folks, when you think immoral thoughts, that's also a sin of which we're supposed to remember every single day, not once or twice. Now, OMG, that's a good response. Okay, the guy's like he's got a headache, right? But folks, seriously, I want you to realize what we're talking about here. And this is a major, major theme of Tanya. Major theme of Tanya. It's like this. You have to control your thoughts because thoughts become things. Thoughts become things. Thoughts is a thought. Now, the general way it works is you're supposed to, I wouldn't say most, but the way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to think before you speak. There are some people that do it the other way around. Right. But the way it's supposed to work, you're supposed to think, then you speak, and then you act. TSA, thought, speech, action. These are the three garments of our soul. I'm glad that Mark likes my sweater. The garments of the soul are thought, speech, and action. I'd rather you compliment my soul garments than my body garments, but hey, I'll take it. So my point is over here is that you only have three garments of your soul. There's only three forms of expression: thought, speech, and action. There's no other way to manifest your soul, to express your soul in this physical world. Now, remember, what is your soul? Remember, Tanya, basic Tanya, what is your soul? Your soul's essence is intellect, wisdom, and emotion. Wisdom and feelings. That's the essence of your soul. When people tell me they don't have a soul, I'm like, you don't. What you think is a soul is not what I think is a soul. The Torah tells us that your soul is your feelings and your understandings. Wisdom and feelings. That's your soul. But how do you express your wisdom and your feelings? Through thought, speech, and action. So when Elise Stefanik stood up yesterday and she said that she believes the United Nations ambassador, American ambassador to the United Nations, that she asserts the Jewish sovereignty of Judea and Samaria by biblical right, that's amazing. We have the biblical title deed to Judea and Samaria, to what they erroneously call the West Bank. Here she's taking an emotion or an intellectual observation, and she's manifesting it on television in front of the whole world through speech. So now if she didn't speak, you would never know about it, because it needs to dress up in the soul garment, right? It needs to dress up in the soul garment, right? So in the same way, thought, speech, and action are the garments of the soul, but the most sensitive of those three is your thoughts. When you're thinking something, we learned this recently in Tanya chapter 8, when you're thinking the wrong thoughts, then it actually, what do your clothes do to you? Let me ask you a question. What do your clothes, when you dress up in a certain way, what does it do to you? It makes you feel differently, right? So when you dress trashy, you feel trashy. When you dress dignified, you feel dignified, right? You wouldn't go to the presidential inauguration, right? The most awesome transfer of power in the most. Shorts. You wouldn't go in shorts, exactly. Yeah. What would happen?
John Fetterman.
Somebody showed up in shorts? Really? Yeah. OMG. Yeah. Was that some sort of a?
No, that's how he does.
That's his style.
That's his shtick.
Okay, fine. All right, I guess. So, all right, fine. Okay, fine. So, all right. So that kind of ruins my argument, but I was going to say that you wouldn't show up in shorts because.
If you didn't have bad thoughts, then you couldn't be a Beinoni.
Oh, very good. I want to get to that in a moment. Just please make sure that I don't forget what you're about to say, what you just said. I want to make sure I want to get to that. Okay. I should keep a pen with me so I can remember what I'm saying, and a paper. Thanks. Yeah. So hang on. So here's what I'm saying. That sorry. So the way you dress is the way you feel. Your clothing maketh the man, right? So the person who dresses like a plumber feels like a plumber. The person who dresses like a senator, one of our members of our show is now going to be the ambassador to Croatia. Just appointed. So I texted her yesterday and I said, hey, we should get together. Do we study Torah regularly? She says, I'm on the way from DC. I'll call you tomorrow. Right? Fantastic, right? When you are dressed like the ambassador of the United States, you feel differently, right? Your clothing changes how you feel, right? So there's different kinds of clothing. There's external clothing, like a jacket, a winter coat, which we in Florida wear about 3 weeks a year. No. The winter coat you never wear. The sweater you wear 3 weeks a year. And then there's like an undershirt. An undershirt you wear like every day, right? So thought, speech, and action are those. You're not always acting. You're not always doing things. You do sometimes you're wearing your action garment. Sometimes you're not wearing an action garment. I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing absolutely nothing. If you ever want to attract your wife's attention, you know what you have to do? Just do nothing. Just do nothing. If you do nothing, just do nothing. Should we finding something for you to do, right? So action is a garment that you can don or divest at will, right? Speech Speech is the same thing. You can don or divest. We typically speak more than we act, right? We talk more than we do. So that's more of a closer garment. But thought is constantly in motion. Thought is constantly in motion. We're constantly wearing that thought because it's closest to us. It's like the undershirt. It's closest to us. It's always on us. You can't ever turn thoughts off. You can turn speech off. You can take it off. You can turn action off and not do action, but you can never turn thoughts off because it's the closest garment to you. And therefore, because it's the closest garment to you, therefore it has the most deepest impression upon you. Your actions impress how you feel. Your speech impresses not only how you feel, but even how you think, right? When you talk, if you're angry about something, right? And then what happens when you start talking about it? Flares up. But if you don't talk about it, it quells. When you talk about it, you're pouring fuel on the fire. But thoughts are the most closest garment to the soul. It's never divested. You're always wearing your thoughts. And therefore, what you're thinking about is closest to the soul and has the deepest impression upon the soul, which is why Tanya chapter 8 says that you got to be very careful about what kind of thoughts you're thinking, because that's going to damage your soul if it's a improper thought. Now, what are you supposed to do if you have a thought that you shouldn't be thinking about? So you can't control which thoughts arise within you. But the moment that you become aware, you now have a choice to indulge or divest. Well, sorry, you can't divest of that thought. The only thing you can do is you wash it. Quash. I want to challenge you right now. I'm going to quash a thought. You ready? I want you, Jan, to not think about a polar bear. Go. Can't. You can't do it. It's impossible to quash a thought. But the only thing you can do is replace it with another. See, thoughts are one at a time. You can only think one thought at a time. You can't think two thoughts at the same time. It's a bottleneck. There's only one. So if you want to not think about something, don't say, I'm not thinking about a polar bear right now. Say, I'm going to do another exercise. Ready? I want you to think about a red fox. Were you thinking about a polar bear?
No.
No, because you're thinking about a red fox, right? You can't think about both. You could picture them at the same time, but you can't think about two different thoughts at the same time, right? So that's why if you want to change your thought, all that you have to do, it's not complicated. This is taught us in Tanya. Just switch it with another thought. So have emergency thoughts. You need to have emergency thoughts ready, because when you have some deeply seductive thought coming up in your phone, it's not easy to push it away. You need to have some power Torah meditation ready to go, ready out the gate, something that you can whip out, that you can think about. Okay?
Please God, null and void all my foreign thoughts.
That's your thought. That's your thought. Please God, it's a prayer. It's a prayer. Right?
So that's when you sit with
Please God, null and void my thoughts. I want to tell you, Steve, I'm glad it works for you, but I don't know if that's going to work for everybody, because what you're doing is, that's very interesting. I actually like that. It's a prayer to God to annul your thoughts. Now that aligns very nicely with Tanya, because Tanya says like this. What you just tapped in something very beautiful. Tanya says like this, quoting King Solomon, that the nature between wisdom and folly is the same relationship as light and dark. Just like light and dark never battle. Where there's light, there is no dark. So too, wisdom and folly never battle. Where there is awareness, there is no unconsciousness. So if you're doing something which is unconscious, right? If you're doing something which is counterintuitive, it's not healthy, it's not good for you, it's not good for your soul. If that's what you're doing and you arouse wisdom or truth or awareness, like let's say, I'll give you an example, like extreme example. Let's say a person's struggling with infidelity, maybe porn or something, right? And then his wife walks into the room. What happens?
She joins him.
Oi, forgive me. Sorry.
Marty closes the laptop.
Right. The whole thought becomes like unacceptable. I would think that that's not you wouldn't be able to tolerate it, because it's just your wife. This is the person that you love. This is truth. This is commitment. And this is temporary insanity. I'm going to call it temporary insanity because I might feel good for a short term. But really, it's the dumbest thing you could ever do. Right? It's the dumbest thing you could ever do. So when you're faced with truth versus temporary insanity, it's like the relation between light and dark. The light will banish the darkness. The truth, the love of your spouse will banish the temporary insanity. So to your point, Steve, I want to say that maybe you're absolutely onto something. When you say that I'm going to fill myself with light, like Almighty Om says, I'm going to fill myself up with light, and that's what's going to banish. That's what's going to banish away any thoughts of insanity, which is maybe what you're engaging with right now, right? So I would say maybe a little more practical is have a thought that you're ready to think about. Like maybe think about something that really lights you up. The next investment deal, how you're going to spend quality time with one of your kids, what you're going to talk to your wife about next that's going to bring you closer together. Do you ever do that, by the way? Have you ever thought about preparing conversations to talk to your spouse about that's going to like really light you up and bring you closer together, as opposed to just like logistics? Like, okay, I'll see you at 5 o'clock. Don't be late, that kind of stuff. But imagine thinking about like questions that that will bring you closer together. That would be awesome, right? I don't know what was so funny about what I just said.
He's looking at me. I don't know. He's laughing.
It was like, what?
But I want to tell you something, guys. And yes, this is all aligned with the Tanya that we're learning. By the way, guys, if you haven't learned Tanya with me yet, I want to encourage you to study the 5-minute Tanya with me. The book is bent. I want to encourage you to study the 5-minute Tanya with me. It's on my YouTube channel. It's jewishgardens.com/inspire. It's also on Spotify. Just search like Vigler personal Tanya or something, and you'll find that it's like getting started. We need to get more hits on Spotify for them to take us more seriously. Anyways, so where I'm going with this, guys, is that you really have to control your thoughts. It's a very big deal about controlling your thoughts. And it's so important that we say it twice a day in the Shema in the 3rd paragraph. That's what's so important. Ooh, neurodivergence. I love neurodivergence. What about neurodivergence? They process thoughts and information differently than others, can even have multiple thoughts. Is that a fact? Really? I did not know that neurodivergent people can think multiple thoughts at the same time. That sounds like a little scary. Is that like multiple personality disorder? Is that like borderline? I'm not sure what that is, but hey, sounds interesting. Judy, I don't know the answer to that question. But what I try to do when I study Tanya is I try to apply emerging social trends and psychological trends within the Tanya to see how the Tanya addresses them. Anyways, what I want to just close with this thought of here is by saying to you this. You do not need to tolerate any thought that arises within you. You don't. And there's a beautiful story about this where I believe it was maybe the Baal Shem Tov, maybe the Maggid of Mezrich, the early Hasidic masters, who one of the students came to them and said, how can I possibly control my thoughts? They just come in me. So this Hasidic master, I don't remember which one it was, he said, I need you to go to a certain town. I think he sent him to the Maggid of Mezrich. I think he sent him to Rabbi Dovid. Maybe it was the Baal Shem Tov, and he sent him to his disciple and future successor, the Maggid of Mezrich, Rabbi Dovid, who lived in a town called Mezrich. I believe it was him. And he says, he knows the answer to the question. Okay, so the guy treks his way. In the olden days, it took like 3 weeks to get anywhere, right? Today, it's like, yeah, I'll see you in the morning, right? But then it was like a 3-week process, right? Lots of time to think. So the guy eventually comes to town, and he's like, where is the great Rabbi Dovid, the teacher of this town? And they said, like, do you mean Rabbi Dovid, the impoverished school teacher at the edge of town? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, he's over there. Anyways, the guy goes over to him. No, sorry. I'm mixing up stories. Forgive me. I'm mixing up stories. The story was he arrives at his house. It's late at night during a blizzard. This is the story. Late at night, it's a blizzard, and he can't wait to finally find refuge in the house. The guy sees the light is on, thank God, and he sees a few feet away from him through the window, this guy is studying Torah by the light of a candle. Like, he's going to open up for me. He sees a fellow chassid. I'm going to open. I'll be safe. I'll be warm. He knocks on the window, and he says, hey, I'm here. I'd like to take a message from the Baal Shem Tov. Totally ignores him. And the guy's like knocking on the door. There's sleet and blizzard going on, and he's like trying to stay alive, and he's freezing, he's shivering. Eventually he notices this guy is either engrossed in another planet or he is deliberately ignoring him. Either way, the guy's freezing outside. So he sits out there for like, I don't know, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I don't know the details of the story, but eventually he keeps on like, limping, what's the word? Whatever. He keeps on knocking on the door. And eventually, after whatever amount of time, the guy opens up. He says, "Welcome, my guest, a fellow chassid. Welcome to my home." This guy's drenched, freeze to the bone. And as he sees him, he says, "Thank you for welcoming me to your home, but why couldn't you open the door for me an hour and a half ago when I got here?" So the Rabbi Dovid says to him, "I'm the master of my home. Whom I wish to admit, I allow, and whom I wish to deny, I don't." And as he heard these words, he says, the guest says, "I think I just found the answer to my question.
Right, I'm in charge of my own mind.
My mind is my own castle. I am the master of my castle, and I don't need to allow any toxic, leprous thought into my home." You know, sometimes, I believe that they say that CEOs, help me out here, guys. CEOs get distracted by their assistants on average every 15 minutes. Have you ever heard of such a thing? You're a CEO.
Yeah, but I never.
Well, you have remote location workers. Everybody works remotely for you, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that doesn't help.
How
Doesn't
many
count.
times an associate's come into your office
Yeah.
in the course of the day?
You?
I've heard a lot.
Is it true?
Still shake.
Would you agree with me that
Cognac.
would you agree with me that oh, whatever? I mean, I see it often that CEOs are distracted approximately 15 minutes, and you got to protect yourself. You got to you got to I have a sign outside my door now. My office got me. It says "on air." It's like a little button. It says "on air," and I use it when I'm actually recording, or when I need to think and I need to focus, right? So I put the "on air" sign and don't come in. So
Is this at home?
oh, here in the office. I should get one at home. You know what? That's
At home.
okay.
That's what you really need.
That's good. What was I saying? I just forgot what I was about to say. I was about to say something. So I was going to say this. That
You were distracted.
that a business coach of mine once told me that you have to adopt a bulletproof mindset. I love that mentality, that analogy that he gave me. You have to adopt a bulletproof mindset, which means it's one thing to wear bulletproof on your body when you're in a war zone. But guess what? Life is a war zone, and the battlefield is right here. And when you are protecting your assets, you need to make sure that you've got a bulletproof protection around your assets. In other words, you are not a victim. You are the master of your castle. You do not need to allow any vagabond to wander into your home and make himself comfortable. How would you feel if some stranger just walked into your home, walked over to the fridge and helped himself to a cup of coffee? Why would you allow that in your own mind? You cannot tolerate that in your own mind. You need to adopt a bulletproof mindset and say, look, thoughts can arise in my mind. Yes, indeed. April. Thoughts can arise in your mind, and maybe God is planting those thoughts in your mind. The question is, you are the decider of whether you're going to dwell on those thoughts or not. And once you make that decision, once you hit the moment of consciousness, you can never turn back. Once you're aware, you can never turn back. You now are aware. Okay, so now from this point on, it's going to be either a sinful thought, toxic, or it's going to be a positive thought that's going to lift you up and light you up. And that's your decision. Remember, it is the closest garment of the three soul garments, and it's going to have a profound impression upon you.
So we learned a couple of weeks ago from Manus Friedman that the reason that Eve convinced Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge is because they needed sin so that they would have a task to make the world a holy place for Hashem.
Okay.
So don't we need, just like they needed sin to be able to turn the world holy, we need the camel.
Viewers, if the online viewers, can you tell me, did you hear the question? Just give me a thumbs up if you heard the question, if you need me to repeat the question.
In the same way, we need the camel, the pig, the porn, so that we have a challenge as a Beinoni to overcome it.
Okay.
So rather than close the computer on the porn, if it comes to us, we ought to
Okay, I'm going to repeat the
face
question.
it so that we can overcome it.
It's funny, 50-50. Half the people heard your question, half the people didn't. That's interesting. So the question was asked, aren't we put into this world in order to be tested? Aren't we put into this world in order to experience dysfunction and then to fix it? This was actually a question that King David asked of God Almighty, which was immortalized in Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Right. What happened? What happened was that King David asked of God, why is it that in our prayers we say God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob in the daily Amidah prayer, and we don't say God of David? God answered him, the reason is because they were tested and you were not. Well, then, says David, test me, my Lord. And David falls into slumber. When he wakes up, he goes up to the roof and he gets a desire. April, there's your thought placed into his head. He gets a desire to go shooting. So he goes up, takes out his bow and arrow, and he sees a bird, which really was a Satan in the form of a bird. And the bird flies in front of a teepee, and he misses the bird. He hits the teepee, and the teepee exposes a beautiful woman. Her name was Bathsheba, and she drew the hallelujah from his lips. Right? She became, and from his lips, she drew the hallelujah. She eventually married him. Right, and that was a sin at the time because she was not eligible at the time. But it's good to be king because he made her eligible. Yeah, he made her eligible. It was like a retroactive eligibility. It wasn't all very acceptable. But yeah, that's what he did. I mean, it's a fact of the matter. So David was then tested, and apparently he didn't do that well. He didn't. Look, it's complicated because the Talmud says anybody who says that David sinned is making an error. The Talmud says, but on the other hand, the context of the story says, like, listen, God was showing him, you don't want to be tested because you barely even passed this one, right? So, what I'm saying to you, Robert, is that in the Torah, in the morning prayers, we say every single morning here we say, "Al Tavi'eni Lideini Soyin," God Almighty. We say, please. We say, may be, O Lord, our God of our fathers, to accustom us to study your Torah and to make us cleave to your commandments. Do not bring us into sin, nor into transgression or iniquity, nor into temptation or scorn. And may the evil inclination not have mastery over us. In other words, we're saying, God, do me a favor. Please don't test me. That's what we're saying. We're saying, God, don't test me. I'm not sure I'm going to pass. In other words, what that means is like this. We're already in this world. You already are being tested by virtue of merely being alive. If you're born on this side of the grass, if you wake up on this side of the grass, then your day will be filled with temptation and tests and trials and tribulations. That thought that arises in your head is already a test. That is the test. You don't have to be in an infidelis relationship. I don't even know how to say the word. In an infidel relationship. I don't know, infidelity.
Inappropriate.
You don't have to be in an improper relationship in order to say, now I'm going to fix it. It might be a little too late by that point. You might have destroyed your family already. Don't go there. Don't even go there. What you want to do is that you want to hold strong. Right? You don't want to be tempted. And you're already tempted 1,000 times a day already. The moment that you become aware of that thought, that is your moment of temptation. You don't say, well, by the way, just one thing I want to say to you. Tanya is the book of the struggling Jew, right? The book of the Beinoni. There was another book that the Alter Rebbe wrote. It was called the book of Tzaddikim, the book of the successful Jews. Think about it. The Beinoni has freedom of choice, right? Does the tzaddik have freedom of choice? Think about that for a moment. If the difference between a tzaddik, a successful Jew, and a Beinoni, a struggling Jew, is the internal battle, the battle of titans, that you have two souls within you. You have an animal soul and you have a godly soul. And in the case of the successful Jew, the godly soul is dominated, entirely tamed. The animal soul, and therefore there's no inner struggle. Whereas in the Beinoni, the battle rages within. And he only is able to control himself when it comes to thought, speech, and action, TSA. On a practical expression level, if that's the difference between the Beinoni and the Tzaddik, then the Beinoni is the one that has freedom of choice between good and bad. But does the Tzaddik not have any more freedom of choice? Good question, right? I believe, I don't know the answer, but I believe that of course he has the choice between good and bad. It's like we're going to have freedom of choice when Mashiach comes and we won't have an evil inclination anymore. Today we battle between good and evil. Then, with the case of the tzaddik or the coming of Mashiach, we battle between good and better. Between good and better. Now, that's an interesting discussion, but that book was burned. The manuscript was lost. Why? Apparently, we didn't need the book. Apparently, Hasidim say that we weren't worthy of that particular manuscript, right? In that book, apparently it said that the Alter Rebbe said, now I don't know this for sure because I've never seen the manuscript, but so I've heard, that the Alter Rebbe writes in the book of Tzaddikim that a tzaddik is the one who no longer has the evil inclination, right? He's tamed his horse. His horse is the one that wins the Kentucky Derby. His horse is not the one that's running amok like a bull in a china shop. His one is so trained that he does exactly aligned, streamlined with the rider, right? So he is no longer afraid that his horse is going to rebel. So what does he do? There's no killer whale from Shamu, from SeaWorld. This is a horse that then never kills its trainer, right? The tzaddik is the one that engages with sin in order to fix it, because he knows he's never going to be sucked into the quicksand. But don't you dare try that at home if you're a Beinoni still. If you try to engage with sin, you're gonna slide so fast you won't even know what hit you, right? And that's why, in closing here, folks, there's so many comments. I want to address them in a moment. In closing, I want to say that you are the master of your household. You're the master of your castle. Defend your thoughts with a bulletproof vest. You cannot control the thoughts that come into your mind, but you can control the thoughts that stay in your mind, and that's the bottom line. You can't control the thoughts that come into your mind, but you can control the thoughts that stay in your mind. And how can you actually control the thoughts that come into your mind? Third paragraph of the Shema, watch what you're looking at. Guard your eyes. There's actually an organization, I believe, called guardyoureyes.org. Check it out. Guardyoureyes.org. I think that's what it's called. It's all about protecting yourself from inappropriate and toxic images on the internet. You should take a look. But if you guard your eyes, you might not come into a problem. You might not come into a problem. And I want to say this. You know those you've heard of these stories of religious Jews that don't want to sit next to women on a bus or on an airplane. I mean, it's a little off-putting a little bit when you hear about a guy on a plane. Actually, I read a story just yesterday. Oh my God, it was an amazing story. If you fly LL's a whole experience. There's like minions going on. There's people like filling throughout the plane. The LL pilot, he says, when he lands, every landing always late. He says, I'd like to wish you welcome to Israel, to all our passengers, to all our passengers who are sitting down. I'd like to wish you a happy Xmas, and to those who are standing, I'd like to wish you a happy Hanukkah. Right? It's like a whole experience, The air hostess, she asks the passenger, so, sir, would you like your dinner? So he says, what are my options? Yes or no? It's customer service, LL style, right? So why am I saying LL? Because what was I about to say? LL. I was about to say about LL and flying to Israel. Shoot, I just lost my thought.
Sitting next to.
Right. So over there, there's thank you there. So sometimes it happens that a religious person will say, well, could you move your seat because I can't sit next to a woman? And it's like, hello, why are you imposing your religious values on me? Like, buy 3 seats. Like, what do you want from me? Buy 2 seats. I don't know. Just buy the bulkhead. Go first class. I don't know. So it could be very offensive. It's obviously not what you say, but how you say. Why are they doing this? Why are these people doing it? Maybe they can't handle it. Maybe they're trying to guard their eyes. Maybe they're so sexually sensitized. Now, I know this might be a little out of the box. Just bear with me a moment. Maybe they're so sexually sensitized that they're actually not able to handle it. Look, I'll give you an example. Like I wouldn't have a barber or a massage therapist that's female, or a chiropractor, because, it's not appropriate. Do you know what I mean? But when you have, these teenagers that say, yeah, we go on camping trips, boys and girls together, and we share, we share everything. We share sleeping bag. What does that say about your relationships, your sexuality? It says that a part of your sexuality is dead. That's what it means, that you no longer get excited about things that you should be getting excited about, right? And maybe if you didn't show it all out, then there would be more sensitivity there, right? Anyways, what I'm trying to say is not what you say, but it's how you say it that matters, right? It's a very sensitive topic here, right? But there was an amazing story here, which happened apparently maybe a few months ago, where a guy was sitting on a plane and he was like, very innocent, and he said to the woman next to him, listen, he's a yeshiva student or something. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't sit next to you. Do you mind switching seats or something? And she was like, go jump in the lake. Anyways, the lady behind him says, I'll switch with you. I'm sitting next to him. Here, you can whatever, fine, LL, all right? So she said, but I need you to do me a favor. She said, look, I'm not religious, but I need you to do me a favor. My daughter's a hostage in Gaza, and I'd like you to pray for her every single day. This is the deal. I'll pray for her every day. And took the day and we pray for her. Apparently, this girl was the one of the girls that was released this past Shabbos. Just a nice story, you know. It's like an interesting story, you know. Anyways, why am I saying this? Is because maybe there is something to it. I'm not condoning imposing your religious values on other people. It's not what I'm suggesting. But what I am saying is that, and maybe it's not what you say, but how you say it that matters more than anything else. But what I'm saying is that maybe we should be a little bit more careful with what we look at. And maybe just because something is considered PG-13, you have to ask yourself, who are the people that are behind that decision? You know, what are the values of the people that determined PG-13? And I look at it, I'm like, seriously? This looks like PG-48 to me. You know, like, how did this become PG-13, right? And this is what they call the Disney Channel? Like, seriously? This is ridiculous. We have to protect ourselves. We have to protect ourselves from what we see. Lots of comments coming in here, folks. Okay. Let's see if there's any comments that I want to jump into. Diverting the eyes is a great exercise because it shows inner strength. Okay, Gib. I came upon the exercise when I had a series of enlightenments. Diverting the eyes. Yeah, you know, you should control your eyes. Very, very important. And therefore, this third paragraph of the Shema. Good.
Now we have a friend who's visiting.
Modern psychology has taken this idea called AIR. I've never heard of this. Acknowledge, interrupt, and redirect for thoughts. Did you ever hear of this? AIR, air. Acknowledge, interrupt, and redirect. So acknowledge the thought, interrupt it, and then redirect. Air. That's pretty cool. What were you about to say, Stephen?
We have a friend who's visiting whose son is studying in Israel, and
Okay.
she's frustrated because she can't FaceTime him. He's not allowed to have a smartphone.
Welcome to my son's yeshiva. Same thing.
Okay,
Is that a bad
exactly.
thing or a good thing?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Would it not be better to have it and be able to, you know, exercise control than to
Say goodbye to your teenager if you
Yeah.
give him a smartphone. I'm
Well,
serious.
This is somebody who's 24 years old.
What do you want?
Yeah.
24. Hey, 24 years old. I'm not. Yeah, fine. But I'm just saying, how could you possibly, I don't know, how could you possibly give a teenager a phone like without a filter? It's really not. It's not okay. A phone without a filter, a smartphone that can do anything on that phone, and that's just ridiculous. And by the way, Hanan, yes, we do have a video class every day of the week except for Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have a video class. But you can always watch the Daily Tanya. It's on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. Anyways, folks, have a great day. Pleasure chatting with you. This Talmud is awesome, hey?
You're not-